guys. So, Nazia,
Yes.
tell me how your company, your family company, has this unique operation that services the steel industry.
Well, sir, we are the first company to successfully pioneer completing of the steel pans with the nickel base. We have been doing this for over 40 years because this company was founded in 1978 by my grandfather, Mr. Zay's family. How it all started was Mr. Rudolph Charles, General, the original man with the hammer from Laventille, from Desperado Steel Band, approached my grandfather, Mr. Zay, to chrome plate the steel pans. How Chrome Furnishers was started was to complement one of the other businesses in the Mustafa group of companies, Mustafa's Engineering Works. We do industrial chroming as well as decorative chroming. So with Mr. Rudolph Charles bringing the steel pan to be chromed using a nickel base. When that process was completed, in addition to the classic chrome finish, the quality of the sound of the instruments greatly improved.
Wow, I can imagine Mr. Rudolph Charles approaching the fellow for the first time, maybe having this wild idea in his head, and then at the end of the process, giving feedback of the quality of the sound improving. What was that like for your grandfather? If you relate stories of.
Well, for me, sir, we are creators and innovators in this beautiful island, Trinidad and Tobago. What was once an oil drum has been recycled, hammered, tuned, and chrome plated. We are the birthplace of steel pan. So that history, being able to know we can be innovative and creative, it's amazing.
Yeah. I can't imagine any frontline pan. I mean, there are powder coated pans, there are painted pans, but what the chrome did to highlight and more or less bring a prominence to the instruments, knowing that your family is responsible for a lot of the chrome instruments that exist. How does that position you in terms of deliveries and making sure your standards are always up to date and such?
Well, we have a good rapport with our clients. I always say, know your clients, know the challenges, know the market, right? So when we mastered this process, because we've been doing it for over 40 years, I looked at some of the challenges. You have to understand with chrome plating a steel pan, as I said, this was an oil drum. So we have to look at the raw material, in terms of the structure, the steel, the alloys, because all these will affect when we chrome plate. Craftsmanship done by a manufacturer tuner is so important because everyone is different. Think of a cake with the ingredients.
Yes.
You have organic, you have gluten-free. So however you choose to master your product and put it out there. But for us, I see it as a responsibility. We're all about inspection, quality control. From the time we receive a drum from a client, we inspect it for scratches, grooves, dents, a finish could be, because we re-chrome as well.
Right.
So if there's chrome, paint, rust, because all these things, when it's chrome, it will thin. One of the processes when the manufacturer has to produce a steel pan, in addition to being hammered, cut, it's burnt or tempered, right? That hardens the drum. Now, because of the lack of drums, sometimes the tuners have to resort to using poisonous drums.
Wow.
So this is not only hazardous to the tuner's health, but it's also hazardous to the environment. So we have lost some real icons in the industry because you have to really have a passion for this because it's, like you mentioned, carnival, jazz, any sort of global event where we have an orchestra, right? And the time it goes into producing that instrument, you may see a 4 or 5 minute performance, but understand what goes behind the production. So from the manufacturers, the tuners, to chrome plate it, we can chrome plate a steel pan and it can be delivered within this 14 business days. Because again, it's not just dipping it in a solution and here's your pan of spray painting. No. At our company, we do specific things to the drum because we have to make sure in terms of if there's any residue, like I spoke of, chemicals, paint, rust, we have to strip that. Our technicians have to prepare and to ensure the surface is as best as it can be so that the nickel and the chrome adheres to the surface.
Right. And here we talk and we definitely run a business based on relationship. it doesn't seem as if furnishers operate outside of what's actually happening in fraternity. Because you speak about tutors, you speak about music, so there's a level of passion behind that.
Definitely.
Did that grow over time or?
Well, so I've always been passionate about music. My background is I've studied piano and I like to travel.
Right.
You can find steelpan music in every genre of music, from hip hop to classical to EDM, right? We even have variations of the steelpan, something called a hand pan, it's like a dome, right? But it's not like, chrome steelpan. But this year, we would have celebrated Carnival early February, well, right? But understand from the year before, when Carnival is launched, the preparation that goes leading up into these events for Panorama, junior, small, medium, large, for those players to have instruments, it all goes back to your manufacturers, your tuners, and chrome plating.
Yes.
Because without the quality sound instrument, you can't enjoy anything.
So this, as you said, that there are trends, more or less, in terms of the market. Coming to closer to Carnival, do you have an influx of instruments? Is it up in terms of?
Well, actually, no, because that's when they'll be judging, whether it's by the Panyard, so for the semis, right? But leading up to the finals, that's when you want to put on your best,
right? Okay.
Change a little game in terms of the performance with the arrangers. Oh, yes, we do have some conflict, but remember the arrangers, the tuners, they need to get back those instruments, and the players will have to practice.
Right. So maybe around December or November is the high time of the chrome factory.
Yes.
Where the deliveries more or less has to get in the start of the panorama season.
And then remember, we kick off here, but after Trinidad's Carnival, we have leading up to the other islands, then to the States, Notting Hill in Europe. Anywhere there's a carnival, the chrome pans for them there.
Right. Good.
And it's a good relationship we have with the tuners, the manufacturers, because they're the ones that travel. They're the ones that have to blend or tune pans, and they're the ones that market our industry.
Correct. So let's, as you said there, Notting Hill and all these different things. Is it that those persons out in those countries, do they engage with chrome furnishers, or through the tuners, they purchase the pans or make the pans here and then ship out? Do you all have that international relationship happening as well?
We do, but I saw it as it's the tuners and the manufacturers that would get the orders. Right? You have to understand, we're all connected like the steel pan, we're all connected in the industry. We each have specialized routes. Right? So the tuners would get the orders, and again, it will come to Chrome Furnishers Limited to be completed and then delivered to their clients globally.
Right, okay, gotcha. Right, now I heard your granddad, Rudolph Charles, you weren't born yet, you have now been serving your family's company. Tell us about that. What did you bring to the table that was exclusive for?
Well, for me, I've always been an inquirer with my background.
Yes.
So I started to go through our archives and really seeing in the industry how we've evolved. So in terms of events, when we mastered the chrome plating process, we started our innovation in terms of the pan accessories. So the single folding pan stands or double folding. We basically tailored products to suit our clients' needs, because when they have to travel globally, you have to ship items, you have to make sure weight, right? When it's an orchestra. When I go to events, Panorama this year, washing them on the drags, sometimes having to push these big racks, even sound therapy with the steel drum. Sometimes one band had these sort of things, they basically to keep the sound in.
Right.
There's so much more we can do to explore.
Right.
And going through my archives of chrome finishers, the jobs we'd have done, Interactor, I really wish the industry had more things documented.
Right.
We live in a technological world, but as you know, you can have flaws in technology. It is what it is, okay? And they would never have a textbook because we are creators and innovators. So you have to take risks, understand there will always be challenges, but it's that attitude you have. Are you going to focus on the obstacle or focus on the outcome?
Right. So as you carry us down that road there, what are 4 or 5 big challenges you think the industry faces at this point in time?
Well, so definitely the supply of raw materials for the manufacturers and tuners, right? As I mentioned before, the lack of, sometimes tuners have to use raw drums that would have had poison in them.
Yeah.
And it's an environmental hazard for them as well as the environment. And in terms of the quality and type of drums, there's no set standard. So the composition of the steel sometimes with the alloys, all that will affect in terms of, as I spoke to you, would be nickel and then we chrome plate so it adheres to the surface. One major one I would say is the preparation and methodology done on the drums. As I spoke to you about a cake, you can have the best ingredients, but it's how the baker, the tuner maker, how he spends his extra time, whether it's to buff the pan, polish, in terms of getting all those scratches, dents.
Right.
We have other finishes in the industry, such as powder coating and spray painting, but that process involves more sandblasting. So that will make the drum porous for the painter.
Yes.
But for chroming, that's a big no, because it will just highlight all the scratches.
Correct.
So chrome plating, it enhances the sound of the drum. And do you know, a chrome pan can last you up to 20 years once it's properly stored.
Wow.
So
It's almost like time.
So protect your investment, just like how what energy or what food you put into our body is the same thing with your investing in an instrument to last your lifetime.
Yeah. So like we know had that big issue with getting new raw materials. And as you said, persons had to revert to poison drums, right? And as you said, you did lose a few good men due to that. That would have affected your business as well in terms of.
Yes, because succession and legacy. The pioneers of chrome plating were originally Mr. Rudolph Charles, my grandfather, Mrs. I, Mr. Shaw, and Mr. Human Guppy Brown.
Wow.
And we have succession in terms of he has his brother, and it's a family, everybody, it's a small group of tuners, and we all know in terms of how we do with how his mom, dad, that's the kind of rapport we have. And in terms of the lost, I just miss hearing these stories, right? The information not being documented. For me, I saw that gap in the industry. I wanted to understand the process. So at our plant, I created a little museum with the stages of the drum, with the tuners. I always make sure I try to get pictures just to create that sort of anybody that comes, a client or visitor, be aware or know your roots, remember your past, recognize, because without them, the industry will not evolve to what it is today.
Tell us about that little museum that you created.
Well, I love to learn through, you can learn, you can get accreditation, yes, but my passion is always I'm a doer. I'm always, let's get this done visually. You need images, right? And just like I told you, what was once a recycled oil drum, hammered, how we have manually now the hammer, or an air hammer, but when you're producing that, what is better? Always you can evolve, you can take a risk, or no, maybe sometimes with this, you should step back and refocus. The tuner, in terms of this is sound, you have to make sure this is an art. Yes, you can have an app or you can have something, but it does not substitute that aid. And we need to have, in terms of more tuners, education. Education, I would say, is the way. Platforms like these, letting people be aware of these specialized rules it takes to create that instrument. So I've done with a collaboration with Mr. Jimmy Phillip, mentor, invent, innovator. He guided me how to do this, right? In terms of the stages of the drum. Last week we celebrated and recognized steelpan makers and tuners day. So it was just respecting the tuners, what they do. Sometimes, but carnival, I hear stories. Yes, I started the carnival last time. Don't mind how I'm like, it is what it is,
Yes.
I appreciate, and even with our family business, it was part of the most sustainable company. So where we would have done items servicing the automotive industry, steel pan, marine. We used to manufacture common glass furniture, but you have to change and adapt with the times.
Yes, definitely.
So when you're invited to come visit the compound and you can view. So we have pictures, and I am a female and a male dominated industry. So don't be fearful in terms of we are women, but we have our roles, and I have pictures of a woman assembling furniture, and we can do anything. It's just we have to work together and respect each other.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'm going straight to your role in the family business as the marketing director since 2013. I know you have been doing that well. Can you give insights on that? And even further, maybe you could touch on ways as an industry we could market that the instrument regionally, locally, and internationally.
Well, free events and forums like these, first of all. I know this is the first one, but again, congrats to your team, what you're doing here, the discussion, exposure, education, especially through programs with a steelpan in every school.
Yeah.
With the kids. I remember this year for the Julie Panorama, that for me, the passion, the energy of the kids, that was amazing. So teaching the kids about our national instrument, markets locally. Globally, yes, we have carnival, we have jazz festivals, but tourism, because we're experiencing a global pandemic. Everybody wants, it's the end of the year, everybody wants a vacation, needs a vacation. And when they think of that, they think of the islands, they think of steelpan music. So definitely we need to work more with the other ministries in terms of marketing steelpan. And a key is networking, connecting with our peers, as you said earlier, with the tuners. We support our tuners, our manufacturers. Yes.
So, everyone, you're seeing the individualized approaches towards each tuner, each manufacturer getting their instruments out. In your field of play, can you see Trinidad and Tobago as a country making seeing that this is our national instrument, coming up with a solid plan that supports what's happening naturally, organically around the industry?
Yes, definitely. We just need to, in terms of networking everyone together and understanding specialized rules. If there's a proper quality drum for the tuners to have a standard to
maintain that standard in the drum.
And we chrome plate it because we have mastered the process.
Yes.
It's just in terms of the other building blocks leading up to chrome plating the pan.
Right.
We can take it because we are the birthplace of steelpan. It is our national instrument.
Yes. Well, you see us going from here. Where you see the industry in the next 10 years, next 20 years?
Well, when tuners come back from traveling for the carnivals and stuff, I was like, how was your travels? And I remember one gentleman, Mr. Mario Joseph, he came back from Japan, he's like, everything is red, white, and black. It's amazing to respect Asia, Japan. I spoke to a little bit about innovation. We had a pan come in, Mr. Kiro, and did the diamond cut design on a guitar pan, and it was tuned by Mr. Maho. So understanding how people globally are taking it to a different level, it's amazing. Mr. Jimmy Phillip and Mr. Skerritt, they brought zodiac and astrological design pans, and so there's always something new in terms of designs. I spoke to you a little bit about the hand pan, the dome. Right, it's more matte finish because it's more hands-on, but music always connects people, no matter your demographic, your nationality. It breaks boundaries, and we are the birthplace of steelpan.
Right.
So
in the future, you see like a gold plated?
Oh, definitely. There are different finishes. You can do gold plated. But remember, this is a steel drum, so the steel, we have to ensure whatever surface you may want to do or experiment with, it doesn't thin the drum, because how I spoke to the recone pans, I always have to tell clients, this will thin your drum in terms of the sound that you get.
Yes.
So be aware of that.
Right, good. I know you touched on it briefly, and you're all going through this pandemic. How did the COVID pandemic affect your business? How you operate in terms of your workers,
Well, we do support the Keith Rowley, we know carnival, this kind of stuff, right? But we have to ensure safety of our citizens, that's self-preservation, but understand we have a role to play. We have to wear our masks, we have to social distance. Because until there's a proper cure, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Now at Chrome Finishers, we ensure health and safety protocols are practiced, but we have scaled our operations tremendously. And we have our staff on a rotational basis to service our clients. So during these uncertain times, let us remember to all be responsible. And our health is our wealth, there's no substitute for that, right? So shift our focus on the outcome is we will connect again in public gatherings and enjoy carnivals, steelpan. Just for this time, let's adapt, let's change our focus, whether it's learning a new skill or in terms of realigning in terms of your skill or your product, how can I do it better? How can I improve? That sort of thing.
Right, good. I totally agree with your sentiments there. Watching and hearing you talk and seeing, based on your bio, you have been majoring in criminology and sociology, but now you're in marketing and you speak of almost taking a managerial role in your family business. How do you marry all those experiences and education that you would have obtained?
They've all been building blocks and lessons for me because everything I've experienced in terms of you have a marketing role, criminology background, being an inquirer, and just being open.
Yes.
We have to respect. We are creators, innovators. Sometimes people may come with ideas that you may be like, that's outside the box. But yes, you have to think outside the box. You have to take risks. And it's just respecting each other, right? With regards to my passion for music and understanding that there is a market for steelpan and hip hop, from 50 Cent has it, Nicki Minaj, to EDM, these two talent girls shooting this year. Like, it's amazing when you hear that steelpan. I remember one of my travels, I went to College Wheels, and Mr. Wahida, because he was staying in steelpan, we just went to a restaurant, and that was the entertainment, and I was like, okay, divine order, steelpan is here. And I looked at his drum, because how we do our jobs, we stamp each drum.
Right, okay.
Because remember, these drums are going to be chrome plated. We have to know in terms of the solutions covering these things, whose job is there. And when I saw that number, I'm like, so this actually passed through my company. And that sort of pride you have, there's no substitute for that.
Right, I like that. And just as, we're going back to that. So let's say there's 6 tuners bringing their instruments to your factory. What's the process to making sure, just as you said, it's a craftsman's job. It is, with the other industries, the marine and the car, I know it's a totally different handling with the instruments, but you don't want to get the instruments bounced or dented compared to when it got to your factory. So how do you maneuver? Let's say I'm calling some names separated, Mario Joseph pants compared to Marco Richardson's pants compared to Augustus Peter's pants. How was that process like?
Well, initially when a job comes in, whether it's 1 pan, 3, a wrap, right? We measure the skeleton of the pan. Remember that will vary depending if it's a tenor, double tenor, guitar, right? Like today we got some G pans.
Right.
So the diameter of that pan is really wide. So we take measurements, dimensions, and then we mark, we stamp each job. So we would say Mr. Jimmy has 3 pans. That one job would have those specific marks on it. So that's what we identified. So when it goes in the tanks and comes back out, that mark would still be there. Because remember, again, it's going in solutions. I remember some clients are back. He wanted to put his signature, and I had to tell him, listen, so I understand you want a brand, because that's part of them as well as meters.
Yes.
But when it goes through our machines, this will be raised. So whether in terms of you doing your marking a different area of the pan or just a little deeper, I know. But again, when they have to group the notes and stuff, you have to make sure it doesn't interfere. So we inspect the pans for scratches, for dents, grooving, sandblasting, if there's welding. Right? We finish such as paint, rust, chrome, and we write it down, we inform our clients this is what we found. Sometimes they have to put wand on the cans because with the elements we live in the tropics to prevent it from rusting.
Correct.
So when we remove the wand, we have to look underneath for these scratches, for these surface marks, and we inform them right away. Hey,
right.
This is how we receive the drums before it's going to be prepared.
Right. So, I mean, you said measuring. Does the measuring also cater for how you price or charge?
Yes.
So the longer the skirt, more or the more just the chrome. I would expect that.
Yes.
So, I mean, seeing maybe via the internet, I'm just imagining your chrome in the steelpan. I have seen in the past chrome pieces. How do you understand that?
Well, intensive process, just like how when I talked to you initially, when Mr. Rudolph Charles came and my grandfather hearing, he told him, we've never submerged drums like that. So he said, no problem. Got some guys from Laventille to come and help in the process.
Wow.
And again, that's what we need, teamwork, right? And it was just, I wish we had more documentation.
Wow, pictures, yes.
Opportunity.
So you would have had to maybe at some point change the tank size or the tanks are always big enough to accommodate those instruments.
Yes. My mom, she would tell me, listen, we think this is a lot of pans for panorama back in the day, 80s, 90s. We'd have racks all the way to the end of the compound and the tuners just waiting, right, midnight to get these pans to tune it. So again, because you have deadlines, you have expectations, or you have to work with time frames. Right. So operations have scaled on tremendously because again, the lack of drums for the tuners to work with.
Right. I can imagine, as you said, there back in the day when bands were now building all their numbers, how many instruments would come through that operation. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see if there are any questions coming from our live audience. If you don't have any questions, please post them and we'll take them up as we go along. So thanks for tuning in, and as we continue with this most informative interview with Ms. Nazia Mohammed.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Is there anything you want to touch on based on how the factory operates? You know, sometimes people, as you said, there's a 2-week waiting time. And if there's this sometimes anxiety or deadlines of the tuners, and I mean, by now they will be able to incorporate that into the delivery time. That 2 week is almost not enough. Based on what you're saying, is there a drive? Or was that what time allows you to do?
We do offer rush service as well.
Rush as well, okay.
7 business days. I spoke to challenges with drums. If when we strip the drum of it having wand on it and we see it could even have paint, especially with pans that will be re-chromed.
Right.
And when you're stripping that initial chrome to prep it to be nickel plated and chrome plated. So we have to, again, we just give that time frame to cover in terms of what will have to be done in the process.
Right. So nickel, chrome, you'll import your stuff, or how that happens.
Well, again, in this industry, it's not easy to set up a chrome plating.
Right.
So all our chemicals and environmentally friendly, we have to be testing every and keep that standard because nickel is expensive. We know this, so that's why in terms of our charging with jobs, but the quality you can expect that our standards are always up to par.
Right. Excellent stuff. Like within your entire experience, what were some common pitfalls newcomers may experience? I mean, sometimes, as you said, it's not an easy industry to go into. But any advice you would like to give? See, we have a question. Yes.
Well, as a key strength in the industry, we are all innovators and creators. I remember what was once an oil drum has been recycled hammer, tune, and needles and instruments. So us successfully completing steel pans over 40 years, doing different variations, we mastered that. But we have to work in connection with the tuners and makers and manufacturers and understanding their challenges. You touched about we have lost some steel pan icons in the industry, and for me, we can improve in terms of recognizing and the hard work they do.
Yes.
Because they're very humble people.
Yes.
Some of them I remember clients would ask, do we sell chrome plated steel pans? I said, no, we service of chrome plating.
Right.
So I saw a gap in the market where there's not even a website where the tuners, the information. So on our social media, I started posting the jobs, posting the tuners, because some of them don't have the time. Again, they're out in their workshops. They're not behind a computer posting marketing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, you can go online, you can view the different types of tuners they with, and then you can contact them directly. So more connecting, networking, recognizing, and just in terms of appreciating the art it is that tuning an instrument, education with the kids in the school, to just taking it up.
Yeah. I have a huge vision that definitely it more or less lends that ecosystem where each aspect of the functioning supports the other. So you don't want a manufacturing system where everything is manufactured at the highest quality being the main point. Then you get to the point of advertising. How can we advertise through professional performance, through ensembles, playing the instruments from that manufacturing space. And then you're talking about a conservatory, teaching people this skill set, not just for the players, but also the aspect of it. How do you make a part? How do you prove a part? How do you get the drums in order? So all those things. And then the spill off of that is, you have the professionals in the world spaces, but as you say, what next? These persons live, and then there's no Hall of Fame. So what about a Hall of Fame? A Hall of Fame, a museum that lives, that not just the individual, but the plans, the stages that maybe was convex or concave, the first 3-note pan, 5-note pan, all these different things. So as the hub, as the place that you say where the birthplace of the steel pan, these little things that we take for granted is what could definitely put us on the map as the true ambassadors for the instruments. So I hear that once, and I know that is something collectively, people like us and others who will be discussing on this week, and even who weren't invited for this series can start talking about.
Yes, and then even the tuners, you may start with playing, and then in terms of arranging, or you open your own company, Mr. Caldwell, he's a guest tomorrow. That whole family, how he started off, and with the junior panorama this year, with the kids with Guide for Presbyterian and his wife with Pitch Perfect Academy. It's all, you have to be able to, like Mr. Jimmy Phillip, you're an inventor, you're a mentor, because these guys, they're young in the industry, but I appreciate and I respect that you're evolving them. And that's what we need. And definitely, yes, the Steel Pan Museum, we should have a carnival museum, right? And just, when you travel to these different countries and you really see, okay, what are you like Grenada, Spice Isle, Trinidad, we are known for steel pan, our agriculture, carnival.
Yeah, I think we have a question. Can you offer sale of drums to offer to the tuners? So, are you thinking of expanding into that?
Well, I did bring it up in terms of tapping into that market, but it goes back to the manufacturers and the tuners. There's no set standard in the industry.
Right.
So they would have to have that. And then definitely it's an option.
Okay.
But there needs to be more formal standardizing the drum, the quality, constitution of the steel.
Correct.
And craftsmanship to be able to do a proper steel drum. Because like I said, chrome plating highlights any imperfection.
Right.
So you want to ensure all those are.
Right. So let's say maybe by the end of the week, we could hear from some tuners. We have guests coming up if they have some of those specs. So and that conversation could continue. Thanks for the question, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you.
Mrs. Matthews.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Hey, so sorry I missed this, but how does it take for the company to create a pan start to finish? How long?
Okay, so hi, good afternoon, we missed, but basically how chrome finishers operate, we offer the service of chrome plating the steel pan. So it goes back to the steel pan manufacturer and the tuner for them to, remember this is an oil drum, they will have to hammer, tune the nodes, grooving, burning the pan, and then it comes to us. We complete our chrome plating process in 14 business days. We also offer a rush service that can be completed in 7 days.
Yes. So definitely they are part of the process and they are the finishing part of the process in terms of getting it chrome plated after the craftsmen and they do their aspect of the job.
And then after they do one final blending, when it leaves chrome plating, just to work out any sort of kinks.
Guys, you need to give Ms. Nazia a really hearty round of applause. She knows these people personally. She knows the process. She knows the song. She's not just supplying a service. She's building relationships. And I think more and more, as I get to talk to these entrepreneurs, you realize relationship is one of the strongest points in getting any type of business through. It's beyond just a profit. And I'm glad to see that you're invested. Well, to be honest, I think I got a lot, almost everything from you. Is there any other thing you would like to mention before we wrap up this conversation?
Just I know we're talking about COVID and what's happening globally, right? It's that time of the year, Christmas is coming up.
Yes.
We have in the States Thanksgiving, we all have all these holidays leading up. And we do miss connecting with our loved ones in public gatherings, but understand we will connect again. We will have carnival again. We will have competitions. But for now, let's just keep safe and just do your best. Always have an attitude of gratitude. There's always something to be thankful for. No matter how bad things are financially, your health is your wealth. You have a roof over your head and your loved ones are safe.
Wow. Guys, I mean, every closer always brings up one more question. I just wanted to, Ms. Mohammed, to say, because I mean, in me reading up on you, I read that you have your own company outside of Furnishers that deals with this positive energy and all that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so my company is Harmony NSM. Basically, it's different tools and modalities to promote a positive lifestyle. So things like wind chimes, affirmation banners, because everything we call people, we have to program our mind, especially now, to be more positive, right? So one of the items they're bringing are Woodstock chimes, and they tune their chimes. So we have to recognize too the steelpan. It's a modality of sound therapy as well. Did you know Mozart? Sound therapists use Mozart classical music for kids with like ADHD, hypersensitivity, and stuff. So there are so many things we can explore and heal ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, all the different levels.
So when you're looking up, you look up for Chrome Furnishers and also what's the name of the company again?
Harmony NSM.
Harmony NSM. So guys, thanks for tuning in and keeping our company, and it seems as if you're getting a question. No, okay. Thanks for tuning in and stay tuned for tomorrow's session, conversation with the entrepreneur.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.